I shed a few tears watching this movie. Alright, y'all, so this video concludes my Rocky series review. Bittersweet, man. I had such a good time reviewing these movies with my boy Mike from the Z Review, and this one wraps it up. But you know what? I'm just happy to talk about this franchise. And Mike, thank you for joining me in these reviews. So appreciate that, bro. So yeah, we cap it off with Rocky Balboa, also known as Rocky 6, also known as the movie that was never supposed to happen, that critics and everybody laughed at Sly Stallone and said, how many Rockies is he going to do? Because I think it was after Rocky 3 or 4, they're like, okay, is he going to do like Rocky 20 where he's going to be fighting from a wheelchair? He was the butt of a lot of jokes, and the making of the movie itself was just a Rocky story in its own, you know, because no studio wanted to touch it. Nobody wanted to mess with it. You know what I mean? They did not want to give Sly a chance because they thought he was too old. They thought with the underperformance of Rocky 5 that nobody would want to see Rocky 6. So I believe it took him, it took him a while. I don't know the exact number, how many years, but it took him a while to get this movie made. And what really inspired him to do this one, besides the fact that he wanted to make up for Rocky 5 and really apologize to the fan and give Rocky a send-off like he's supposed to, it was the fight with George Foreman and Michael Moore back in '94 when George Foreman was like 44, 45 years old, and nobody gave him a chance because he was old. You know, he was an old man fighting this young lion who was a heavyweight champion, and George Foreman shocked the world and became the oldest heavyweight champion ever. And that inspired Sly to really write this script to say, you know what, I'm going to give Rocky one last ride. Let's do it. And when I went to see this, I was happy to see Sly back. He's like a second pops to me, man. Sly helped raise me, so I wanted to support this movie. I wanted this movie to win. And no, it wasn't a smash success, but you know what? Rocky was back, and I enjoyed the movie. However, this movie did have a real somber tone to it. It is a better movie than Rocky 4, all right? But Rocky 4 is a guilty pleasure and such a fun time that I could watch Rocky 4 more than I can Rocky Balboa. But Rocky Balboa is a good movie, but it is so depressing. It's sad. This movie breaks your heart, y'all. Like, okay, the parts that really got me, spoilers by the way, the parts that really got me was when Rocky had a breakdown in front of Paulie talking about how Adrian died. Because every year since Adrian's death, him and Paulie would get together and they would go to all this, the sites, all the places that Rocky and Adrian would go to, like the first date, the first time they met, you know. Every year they do this and Paulie's like, man, I can't do this no more, man. This is sad and fucking depressing. It was heartbreaking. And also, his estranged relationship with his son. You know, his son, Rocky Jr., is trying to escape out of his father's shadow and be his own person. So with doing that, he pushes Rocky away like, dude, I'm not messing with you. And Rocky's fighting hard to get a relationship with his son again. And the scene that got me was when Rocky gave him that pep talk, like, you know, it ain't about how hard you get. It's about how hard you get here and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. That scene right there, that's probably the highlight of the whole movie, all right? So, where am I at? 4 minutes right now? Damn, time flies when you're talking about Rocky, don't it? Shit, I don't want to lose nobody. So, before I get into the rest of my thoughts on Rocky Balboa, I'm going to pass it to the Z Review. Z, let's get into Rocky Balboa, man. Let's go.
Hey Rashad and viewers, what's going on? It's Mike from the Z Review, and you might be thinking, Mike, what the hell is going on in your background? Why is the actual brick wall there instead of your kind of usual casual nerdy setup? Well, it's because in this video, I guess you can say I'm paying homage to the forgotten Rocky movie, Rocky 5, where we see all this kind of street fight vibes about it, and I wanted to kind of recreate that because no one else besides me, Rashad, will remember that movie. But we're not here to talk about Rocky 5 because today we're here to talk about the final entry into the Rocky franchise. Rashad has been kind enough to have me now 6 times onto the channel, and I'm forever thankful that he gave me the opportunity to check out this franchise and actually school me on a franchise I've never actually seen before. And today we're talking about Rocky Balboa. So this movie came out in 2006. Quite a big departure from the original Rocky movies, as they were all set kind of 2 or 3 years after each other, at least in terms of release date, not the actual storyline side of things. This movie was kind of made to make up for the fact that Rocky 5 was received so poorly, and everyone hated that. Even Sylvester Stallone admitted he hated that, and it's kind of like a cash grab. So he felt like he needed to make a movie to kind of please the fans. And what I can actually truly say about this movie is I love the authentic vibes we get of the fight scene we see at the end of this movie. And it could be that the fact that they actually filmed this in a real boxing stadium, because there was actually a boxing fight scheduled to go on after this, but Rocky got the biggest cheers of the night, and the fans went wild when they found out they were actually shooting for Rocky. So I just felt like that was fantastic. The punch effects in this as well were outstanding. I really felt like I was there in the arena watching these two guys battle this out, whereas in the other movies I didn't really get that feeling. So I will give credit where it's due for this fight scene that they produced with Balboa and Dixon. I felt like it really played off fantastically. Essentially, the plot of this is Rocky Balboa comes out of retirement to face someone who's 30 years younger than him, because they originally present a virtual fight because this boxer Dixon, who is the world champion, is being absolutely KOing opponents, and we get a kind of like little montage clip of that at the beginning of the movie. And they put him in a virtual fight against Rocky being the prime of his time in like the 70s, 80s, whereas Dixon's the prime of this current day. They put them in a virtual fight, and Balboa knocks Dixon out in one round. And his management aren't a big fan of that. They're thinking, well, hold on, this very old veteran can beat our current world champion. Well, no, that's not going to work. That's not how this is going to play out. And they then promote this kind of fight, and they get Rocky to agree to come out of retirement, and essentially it's a way for them to make money to promote their current fighter. The story itself kind of makes sense. I didn't really care for the opponent of Rocky Balboa. I felt like his backstory wasn't really there. However, I will give credit where it's due. Antonio Tarver, who plays Dixon, the world champion, was fantastic in the fight scene. And again, that was definitely the best part of this movie. It just brought that believability, and just the promotional they used of like HBO and this 10-round fight lasting 3 minutes, and we get like the timer pop up on screen, was great. The best part of that fight scene for me personally was the fact that they used the tints of the camera lenses of like the black and white, and then we see the colour palette kind of show from Rocky's mouth where the blood is drizzling down or from his eye, and the same for Dixon where he's bleeding as well. It really gave that emphatic moment and that emphatic believability about the fight with these two boxers, and it really showcased the pain that they were going through and really the stakes of this Rocky Balboa fight, because he wants to prove that although he's a veteran, he can still tough it out in the ring, whereas Dixon's proven that he is an actual world champion, and the reputation that he's got isn't deserved, because he wants to show that he's not going to get outsmarted or shown up by this veteran Rocky Balboa. Most of the performances in this as well was actually pretty good. I felt like they paid off really well, especially Rocky's definitely stole the movie for me. I thought his chemistry with a new character that we get, Marie, who they kind of relate into the older Rocky movies, who's played by Geraldine Hughes, I believe. I thought she was great in this. Her son, though, wasn't needed at all. I just didn't really get the vibes that he was an important character. He makes maybe one or two kind of dialogue sentences that maybe bring some emphasis into the movie, but besides that, doesn't really do anything else. They maybe could have had it where she did have a son, but he died, kind of like Adrian is in this movie, which we're going to get to in a second. So it then would have kind of give Rocky kind of someone to lean on, because she's had a loss and he's had a loss of Adrian. So they could have played on that a little bit more. So what I just mentioned before about Adrian, yeah, I'm absolutely good. They killed off yet another character in this emotionally fantastic franchise. First we had Mickey, then we had Apollo Creed, and now we have Adrian. I mean, how many more characters did they want to kill off? Talia Shire's absolutely stolen performances in the first 5 Rocky installments. It's a shame that she didn't come back for this one, but she did say to Sylvester Stallone in real life they had an agreement to actually agree to kill her character off, to give Rocky that sense of loneliness, and we do get that feeling from him, although we do see that he's supported by Paulie, of course, Adrian's brother, who Burt Young does return in this movie to play Paulie, and overall, he's okay. He definitely doesn't give the best Paulie performance that we've seen in the original movies, but for what he does give, it holds up. It's definitely passable, let me put it that way. I wasn't 100% sold, and sometimes I felt like he did this movie as maybe like a cash grab, but for some of the dialogue that he does deliver and some of the more emotional moments, especially when him and Rocky kind of are having this sentimental moment in the butcher's factory, definitely the highlight scene, but for me, between those two characters. And we get some really cool cameos in this, like Spider, who Rocky beats in the first ever match in Rocky 1, shows up to actually work in Rocky's restaurant. So I really like the cameos. Overall, I actually really enjoyed this movie. I felt like it was a good entry into the franchise. I wasn't 100% sold on it, and for me, it didn't really have that raw, gritty appeal that the original couple of installments had. But for the majority of this, yeah, it was pretty good. Definitely better than Rocky 5. So I'm going to hand it back over to Rashad and his remaining thoughts on Rocky Balboa.
All right, I anticipated that you were going to like it. I didn't think you was going to love it. This is a really depressing movie. It is. It's a depressing and sad movie. It's really somber in tone. But Stallone still gave a great performance as Rocky. I think Paulie really knocked out the park as Paulie. Antonio Tarver as Mason the Lion Dixon, I think, is the weakest Rocky villain. But he's a real boxer. Antonio Tarver was a real champion. He knocked out Roy Jones Jr., so those that know boxing know about Antonio Tarver. He was a bad boy. Now, as an actor, but Sly always wanted a real boxer in these roles. But think about this. Smoking Joe Frazier was almost Clubber Lang. Play that in your mind. Ken Norton was almost Apollo Creed. I don't think these Rocky movies would have been the same if you had those real boxers playing these roles. You need actual characters. And now, which brings me to the fight itself. The fight of Rocky Balboa was the weakest of the franchise. Even though they try to go real with it, they try to use real HD cameras, and they took away the over-exaggerated chain smashing sounds, brick breaking, fucking shotgun blasting. Those are what made these movies fun. They are surreal. They're supposed to be surreal and ridiculous. A Rocky Balboa fight is like the equivalent of a WWF match, all right? It's supposed to tell a story. It's supposed to tell a story of why these two fighters are fighting, why one hates the other one, why this one has to beat this one. You know what I mean? The better the story, the better the psychology, the better the match will be. There was no psychology really with this boxing match. It was just, okay, I want to show that I still got it. Mason Dixon is like, well, I want to prove to people that I'm not just a one-trick pony. But the story just didn't sell. And because the story didn't sell, I didn't care about the fight. But it was just good to see Stallone back in the ring as Rocky. He was in great shape for somebody. I think he was about 60 years old at the time. So the fight was decent, but just compared to the other Rocky fights, exaggerated as they were, you have to admit they were fun. And they told a story, and you was engaged in it. You know what I mean? So the fight was weak. But the send-off to the character I thought was touching. When Rocky was walking out and everybody was chanting Rocky for the last time he turned around, he kind of gave the thumb, not the thumbs up, but, the arm in the air, shed a couple of tears. I shed a few tears watching this movie. And this is one of those movies where it's good, but it doesn't have that rewatchability that you want to watch it again and again and again. Like, typically, if I have a Rocky marathon, I just do 1 through 4, and I leave 5 out. And depending on what kind of mood I'm in, I put on Balboa. But shout out to Stallone for even making this movie, for getting this movie made with all the obstacles he had to go through, and giving us something where he apologized for Rocky 5. So Rocky 5 is Rocky 5 is retconned in this movie. He doesn't even acknowledge Rocky 5 in this at all. So Rocky 5 is almost like a standalone compared to the other movies because they never address anything that happens in that movie, from the brain damage to losing all his money. Knocked the bum out, he took my room, with his son being bullied. None of that is ever brought up again, and thank God it's not. So wrapping this up, y'all, I'm going to give Rocky Balboa a B+, not the best in the franchise. I'll put this, actually, you know what? I'm going to say that for another video. So yeah, me and Mike from the Z Review are going to team up again and give our best and worst of the Rocky franchise, so please tune in for that. But yeah, Rocky Balboa gets a B+. Yeah, it was pretty good, but it's almost like a love letter to the fans, something that, the fans would appreciate. But other than that, there's nothing really special about it. But yeah, it's Sly Stallone. That's my second pop. So I'm gonna show us some love anyway. So yeah, B+. No, what I say? B plus is what I got for Rocky Balboa. So anyway, what you guys think about it? Comment freely below. If you like and did this content, hit the like and subscribe, notification bell in the corner. And damn it, I did it again. Fuck yeah. Subscribe to the Z Review. The link is in the description. He talks about movies like myself. Really into Back to the Future. Check him out, y'all. He's a very passionate guy when it comes to movies and whatnot. So check him out, man. All right, Mike from the Z Review. Link is in the description. So that's all I got. This is Rashad G signing out. See you in the next video.